All right, guys, Easter Sunday, I couldn't think of a better watch to share with you than this mint dial Traska Freediver. So this is the second version, or Mark II, or Freediver 2, whatever you want to call it. And I've done the original one, I believe, and maybe even this one. I can't remember. I get so many watches on the channel, it's hard for me to remember or keep up. But I have to say, the Freediver, and especially the second generation, I like the upgraded handset, and there's a few other changes, is kind of like a bit of a sleeper. I don't see a ton of pictures or attention drawn to this brand or this actual model. And I have to say, I believe they're going to hold at the price. They're going to be putting out another batch here soon. I think potentially at the end of this month, April 2020, another batch. And the price, the last I looked, I'll put a link in the description to their website, was $400. And at $400, brand new, this is really tough to beat. So let's get into the watch itself. 40 millimeter case, 48 lug to lug. You can see all brushed with some polished reliefs. And we'll get into the finish in a little bit, but let's see, 48 lug to lug. 13.5 millimeter thick. That's including the double dome sapphire crystal with AR coating on the underside. If you ditch the double dome on that, it's probably like 12.5, which I know that's a good measurement to also share with you guys, is like the 12.5, because that's really how it's going to wear. You don't really feel the domed part of a crystal on a watch typically, especially on wrist. 20 millimeter lug width here. Bracelet tapers down nicely to an 18 mil. Signed, all milled, a little bit of swirly extra bits on there, so when you open it up you get to see some fancy stuff. Milled out. I like this style clasp on micro brands, especially 6 micro just double pushers, very easy to operate. And they not only did they sign it, they have their logo there as well, so very nicely done. Solid end links. The center link on the solid end link there also articulates, so you're going to get that to lay flat on the case back. So if you have a little bit smaller wrist and you're worried about that 48 lug to lug, worry not, it's still going to wear really good on you. And you can also see on the case, well, before we get into that finishing, I guess let's finish up the watch. Screw down crown, it looks to be about a 7 millimeter crown. I'll measure it maybe here. Well, let's measure it right now while we're talking about it. I didn't measure it before, so yep, about 7 millimeter. So that seems to be a very, very important thing that I'm finding out, is a 7 millimeter crown is a sweet spot. It is a Goldilocks size for a crown size. So when you unscrew that guy, you get a nice pop on it. And it's a Seiko NH movement. In this case, it's a no date, so it's going to be a 38. You're not going to have the ghost date. If you want the date is at the 6 o'clock, and it'll use the NH35. So you can see one position. It's going to hack. You can go ahead and set your time. Push it in. Whoops. Back that back up a little bit. I wanted that right in there for some reason. Then screw it in. Not a whole lot of threads to get it screwed all the way in, but once you do, it's good to go, and you're going to have 200 meter water resist. So pretty standard affair there. Screw down case back, obviously, with this style of diver, and it's also it's milled out because I can feel some rough edges on the diver there. So if that were to bother you, it's not as bad as I've felt maybe like in the past. The Zelos Mako was a little rougher, but the diver's polished, and then it must be just a fine mill or something, or a laser. I'm not sure how they get that. It's definitely not pressed. So if that were to bother you, which it hasn't bothered me in my wearing, you could touch that up with some Micron paper. It would knock that right down, no big deal. These are individually numbered too. I believe that's the number there. The 119, I'm assuming, is January of 2019, and then this is number 364. I believe that's how he's numbering them. So, stainless steel watch, right? But it has a some sort of anti or scratch resistant coating on it, which I'm not going to test, but I can tell you that Pete, that loaned this watch in, has worn it, and I can't find any scratches on it. And then I wore it, and I'm easy on watches, sure, so I'll give you that. But still, it's a used watch, and it's been worn by at least 2 people, and there's no scratches on it. Coupled with the ceramic bezel, which you can get, there's other colorways obviously, but you can get the other colorways with the ceramic bezel or the steel bezel. I think the ceramic bezel coupled with the scratch resistant on this and the mint dial, I think is just, it's speaking to me for sure. 120 click, nice, consistent, smooth bezel action. No play, not even like a setback on it. Like it just goes right in place. Nice sharp coin edge there, and it matches on the crown as well. No crown guards. That's pretty much it. If we zoom in on the dial, now in natural light, you can kind of see it. It almost has a bit of a pearl effect to it, if you guys are catching that. Really nicely done, applied indices, clean printing, the logo, the brand, automatic Freediver 200, all that's very clean printing. Clean dial, nicely done, polished handset. It's almost like a black polish or black coated. I think it must be, yeah, it's definitely black. Helps it read better against this lighter dial. And then they match that chapter ring like perfectly too to the dial. A lot of times you'll have, because the potential of material differential between the dial and the chapter, you'll have a slight off in the color from the chapter to the dial. This one is spot on. So very clean, well done indeed on the Traska lineup. Nice signed crown. I don't know, guys, I really don't have any complaints with this watch at all. In fact, I think it's a killer option to buy. Here it is on my wrist, on my approximately 7¼ inch wrist. Wears great. I love the 40 with a 48 lug to lug. It's such a sweet spot size for me. You know, a lot of the micro brands have diver watches that are about this size, and they just really work for me. And then you have some fun colors that are happening, some fun case designs, and extreme value on the price. Now, I didn't really focus on it on the close-up, but if you look at the brushing and then the polishing, the way it's done is just very good. Plus, he polished the inside of those lugs where the end link meets. That gives it a nice pop. You know, it would have been just as easy to not round that over and polish that, but I'm glad he did, because that gives it a little extra special look. BGW9 lume on this, and it glows really good. Fully loomed out ceramic bezel insert too. Screw links on the links there. You have the screw pins. I used this screwdriver. I know I keep bringing it up, but if you guys are looking for one of these, I've had better luck with this screwdriver than I had with the Virgion stuff. And this is small enough that it fits in there. Some of these micros have smaller, you know, you could go one size up maybe with this screwdriver, but this one seemed to be pretty universal. Just a little side tip there. So let me give you a lume shot of this Traska. You can see it glows very well. I have some ambient light behind me that's kind of throwing it off a little bit, but you can see the BGW9 glows really cool, nice blue, and then coupled with that mint dial, depending on how much light you have in the room, when you start to look at the lume, it really glows really good with that mint dial. All right, guys, I'm going to close it out. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I will have this one sitting around for a little bit, and I got to say I'm pretty happy with it. Here it is next to, I know I did a picture a while ago here, you know, next to the Notice Retrospect. I mean, talk about a killer pair. Both these are just like similar sized watches, similar price range, and just both home runs from the brands. Both of these like embody like what I really like about the micro brands. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next vid.